The sun is setting, but I'm afraid I'm not going to catch the glowing sunset light anymore, and so I guess we're just going to do night photography today with the good old trusty GX80. And I think I'm just going to take a tram to the place just outside of the city centre where I spotted a Japanese-style garden, and I'll take that as my starting point and just walk on from there and wander around and see what I find. Let's go! So here I'm in that Japanese style garden I talked about. It's pretty small but packed with cute little details here and there, so one might find a photo worthy composition. This is the first shot I got. It's sort of an establisher, I think, that shows a rather wide frame of the garden. I like how the fence in the house frame the side, which moves the focus to the middle where the three people on the bridge sit. What makes the scene more interesting than simply a couple people on a bridge is the surrounding, I think. The park is so full with various plants and colours so that the frame feels nicely filled. Here's a second version I got that is just a bit closer. Anyway, not a bad start, I think. Then I decided to walk along this path and go one round through the park. On this side I found another decent angle to get a second wide shot of the place. The result is alright. I'm not in awe, but the photo isn't a fail either, I guess. I like how the background has this typical Viennese style building rising up which contrasts the Japanese style foreground. Then I spotted a cute piece of garden decoration. Here's the shot. It's not really a detail shot, but kind of is at the same time, in this case simply focusing on the smaller subject. I like how it's present, though seemingly hiding a bit behind the leaves within this packed garden. Then I continued walking and saw all sorts of cute details, but of the sort that are very difficult to capture photographically. I eventually spotted another scene that I thought I could photograph. Here's the result, and I've got mixed feelings here. I love how the photo doesn't concentrate on a specific subject, instead the subject is the garden as a whole with all its details. However, I'm afraid it was already too dark to get this picture. Everything is sort of mashed together a bit too much. I think if I come back here one morning to shoot in a brighter lighting situation, that would add a lot of clarity to the scene and make it work much better. For now, this feels like a good draft for a future photo. Then I continued walking, and it was getting pretty dark by now, so that anything that was beneath a tree was way too dark already, but I then spotted another composition at the bridge, which was still fairly bright. Here's the result, and it's not bad. I like it for the same reasons as explained in the first photograph. The bridge and the people on it are a nice contrast to the full and almost busy surrounding, both in texture and colour. But as a photograph for this purpose, I think I then prefer the first shot I got. Then I had left the garden by now and was walking along a road in the area on the lookout for more compositions. While looking around me, I spotted something that could be interesting. Here it is. The idea I think is pretty clear. The roof framed in the leaves is a decent composition. However, I think this too is not the right subject for the lighting situation at the time. I was walking in blue hour, but finding compositions which would work better in sunlight. At least I imagined this would have a more intriguing look in a brighter scenario. Then I got a pretty similar shot again because I was just fascinated by the house with all those leaves climbing up its walls. However, my opinion here is the same as before. Maybe I should just repeat this shoot another day in bright sunlight. After that, I spotted some interesting light above me and composed a shot of the lamp. Here's the outcome, and we're moving into the right direction. I think what I love about night photography is the play with artificial light. Here the sky is still pretty bright in the picture, but the lamp is strong enough to shine a significant amount of light on the surrounding leaves, which I personally simply find quite interesting. Next, I had crossed the road and was walking into this small path here, just wondering what I might find. To my right, I spotted an interesting building and got a shot. This is the result, and sadly, I don't really like it. I think it's pretty boring. I don't really know what I was trying to achieve in this shot. But then, once I moved on and came around the corner here, I spotted something that looked quite promising. It was just the entrance to the building, but the lighting. It was the lighting. The entrance had this strong orange light illuminating the area, and it was positioned right above the door so that the frame of the entrance would create quite a sharp shadow that contrasted with the darker outside where I stood. This is the result, and I'm really happy with this one. So the lighting itself is the main subject here, with the frame of course, and it works wonderfully I find, because it evokes a sense of intrigue with a bit of mystery. I also love that it wasn't completely dark yet, but still blue hour. This allows for the wall to be a little bit bright, especially at the top, which I think is more interesting than if it were just black. So this, in combination with the color contrast of the blue hour light and the tungsten light, creates a tension and mood that pulls me into the photograph. Then I went back to the main road, and on the right I spotted a path to the side that looked interesting, and so I got a shot. This is it, and it's alright, but not that interesting I think. Maybe if it were a bit dark already, it would work better, because the street lamps would have a stronger effect on the road, whereas now they don't do much because the blue hour light is still pretty present. Then I wanted to get away from this main road and explore some smaller and quieter streets. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you will know that there are a couple subjects I just seem to have a thing for, such as bins, or in this case, street signs. I thought it looked cool how it was kind of hiding in the leaves. This is the shot, and I like it. It's very simple and works. It captures exactly the aspect I wanted to capture, and as a bonus, I think the colors look really good. Then it seems that I had come to this suburban area with lots of houses and cars parked on the road. I was walking down this road and found a car that was placed quite neatly below a lamp, which might look cool in a photo. Here's the result, and I think it worked out more or less. The lamp acts as a nice top light for the car, and what makes this one intriguing I think is its solitude. I was lucky to find this car all alone, without another car parked in front or behind it, which I think has an interesting effect on it as a subject. So overall, I think this is a decent shot. Then I continued my stroll down this road and came across a lowered entrance area with a garage door lit by a couple warm lights. This is the shot I got, a wide shot of the place with some space above to include the building. That was the intention at least when I composed the photo, however I'm not sure whether it's effective. I enjoy the color contrast, which is in part made visible thanks to the upper part of the composition, so I suppose from that perspective the composition is working. But I think maybe the photo would work better an hour later when it's completely dark and the top of the frame would actually be close to black, unlike here. Then, at more or less the same place, I spotted this very interesting looking van on the other side of the road. I say interesting because it looks a bit squashed somehow, or is that only me? Anyway, it was another case of convenient parking below a lamp, so I got another shot in the same style. This is the result. As you can see, I framed it quite tightly, which was necessary to frame out the car that was parked in front of the van. So the composition feels a bit tight, but I think it's alright. It actually kind of works as a parallel to the van itself, that also seems a bit tight or pushed together. The top light from the lamp works nicely, however I think this is another shot that in terms of lighting would have worked better a little later in the evening, because there is that last bit of light in the sky in the background and it's a bit distracting in my opinion. Then, further down the road, I found a house with its lights on, and in front of it, on the road, were two parked vehicles which in total made up an interesting composition, so I tried to find a good angle to capture these subjects. Here's the result, and I think this works wonderfully. I love the layers of the composition with focus shifting between the vehicles, especially the moped, and the house with its bright, warm-lit room. I find that the photograph has a neat storytelling aspect to it, with the various elements and details that provide a lot of room for interpretation and imagination. I think this works so well thanks to the lucky position of the road lamp again. The house with its bright window is the natural subject, but thanks to the lamp, the moped and car also get a nice spotlight shining onto them, as if they were to be highlighted. And this shifts the focus, which can go wrong a lot of the times and end up being distracting. However, in this particular case, I find it quite pleasing, like an extension of the subject. Then, a couple streets further, I found another potential subject. I was, again, intrigued by the light at the entrance. This time also because it shined its light onto the bush next to the entrance, which I thought could look quite interesting in a photo. Here's the result, and it's alright I think, nothing outstanding though. The subject is clearly the bush, which I like. I find it interesting how the door is just cut off here and the concentration is fully pointed at the bush. The mixed light is also interesting, but all in all, the photograph isn't anything special, I'm afraid. Then, I kept wandering around but didn't find anything for a little while until I came to this corner here with the red gates. Something about this corner here was interesting to me, so I got a shot. Here's the result, and I'm having a hard time putting into words what it is that makes this photograph interesting. I think the scene is fairly normal, nothing special actually, but at the same time I can stare at the photo for a good while. Maybe this has to do with the different lights and textures. Again, it's a mix of blue owl light and street lamps, and concerning the textures, I think the wooden fence and the clearly old white walls are interesting elements to simply look at. Can you relate to this? Then, further down the road, I found another entrance to a building which I thought looked really cool thanks to the lighting. It was really dark, but the corner was warmly lit by this one lamp. Here's the shot, and I think now it should be clearer what I was meaning. The scene is lit by just this one lamp, yet somehow it has a cinematic touch. A small detail that I also enjoy are the leaves on the floor. They let the floor seem a bit rough and not too plain, which I find more interesting. Here's an alternative version with a second light that switched on once somebody walked into the area of the sensor. I prefer the first version, but wanted to show you this one as an example of what it could also look like. However, I like the dark and moodier feel of the first one. Then, from here, I wanted to get a simple shot looking down the road because I always enjoy getting these kind of photos with strong leading lines. However, I don't particularly like the result. It's okay. Then, around the corner here, my attention was caught by these leaves that were being nicely backlit by the lamp when looked at from below. Here's the result, and I think it's a pretty cool detail. It's not an unusual kind of photo to see, however, I like the aspect of the night here, which is, in my opinion, a bit more unique. Typically, you'd see this kind of photo in bright daylight or golden hour, so it's a nice change to see a night version, I find. Next, I was walking past a building and stopped to look at this scene here where the building also featured a lamp that shined its light onto the surrounding bushes and the wall. The lamp had quite a pleasing light, so I thought a simple photograph might work. And here it is, and I think it really did work. The scene seems to have this soft glow which doesn't feel at all like nighttime, but the photograph still clearly communicates the night, which I think creates a nice dynamic in the moods. So I really like this one. Then, by now, I had been walking around for quite some time and my GoPro's SD card was running low on space. Then, as a friend of mine called me and I forgot to stop the recording, I filled up the card, so there's no footage of the last 2 shots of the night. I was at a park and got this slow shutter shot, which came out alright, but for my taste it's not quite abstract enough yet. And then the last photograph of the night is this simple shot of an open gate with some bushes behind. I like the mixed light again and how the gate seems to be a pathway to a cold place. Anyway, that concludes this first night session in Vienna since moving here. I think it was overall a success. I mean, I did get a lot of random shots that don't mean much, but at least I got a couple shots that I think are pretty cool. My favourite of this session is this one of the house and the 2 vehicles in front. Let me know which shots you liked in particular. I'm always curious to read your thoughts. Anyway, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, I'd appreciate a like. Consider subscribing if you haven't yet, and I'll see you again next week in the next video. Until then, goodbye.